Looking around, she knew her stepmother had made no effort to move the old lady with any sort of compassion or dignity. From the looks of it, she had bundled a few clothes into a bag, put her in her car and driven away, happy that she needn't take any more responsibility. Martha couldn't bring herself to open cupboards. It was sufficient to see all the old pots and pans still carefully placed in their usual places. It was obvious a cat had been using the old cat flap. Martha hoped it had caught some of the mice inhabiting other parts of the house. Martha took a deep breath and headed towards the stairs. She thought she was being followed.
Was that an extra creak on the stairs behind her? My God,
She told herself.
I am getting paranoid.
Upstairs, if possible. It was worse. Never a lover of spiders, she ducked to avoid a number of large webs hanging from the beams at the top of the staircase. She shuddered as she thought how big the spiders must be to create the black masses in the corners. She instinctively headed towards her old bedroom. Most of the loving things her grandparents had done to make her feel special were gone. Her bed was covered with the girly quilt her grandmother had creatively made, but it was now tattered and torn. Her books, still on the shelf above the desk her granddad had built, were covered in damp and mildew. And then she turned towards the little chair and her cloth dolly. Dolly, she'd never had another name, was still sitting there. Martha reached out to pick her up, and as she touched her, one green glass eye fell off and rolled towards the old iron fireplace, and lay there looking at her. Where it had come from was now an eye socket, with threads hanging down. Martha put a hand over her mouth to stop the scream coming out. The sound of her footsteps seemed to have disturbed something behind the skirting boards. A steady gnawing sound began. Fear that whatever it was might break through caused Martha to step back in terror. At that moment something brushed her hair. A bat was flying around. She couldn't take any more. She dashed for the stairs, which would take her back down to the hall. Now hurrying and stumbling down the flight of steps, she caught her heel in the ancient tatty carpet. It had been there as long as she could remember. As she tripped, she fell forwards, trying to grab at the rails. Later, when she looked back, she was relieved she had been near to the bottom. Suppose she had broken something. No one would have known she was there. Martha pulled herself up on the wooden bench, oblivious to the dirt and dust. Then she heard it. The clock was being wound up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rasping sounds. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then it stopped. She stared at the clock. It had been filthy when she entered the cottage. Now the face was shiny and clean, and the time was perfect. As she looked at it, the pendulum began to sway gently sideways, and the gentle tick-tock, tick-tock began. She ran out of the house, not caring she'd left it unlocked. She didn't stop running until she had safely locked herself inside her car. She hung on to the steering wheel, with her head leaning on her hands, while sobbing and taking huge gulps of breath to clear the taste and smell of the old rotting cottage. This was the end, she later told the estate agent.
Get what you can, I'll never go back.